Thank you, organizer, for giving me this opportunity. Well, for me, today's presentation is how the non-commercial farming, basically farming for food in Nepal, helped rural people cope the pandemic. So I'll directly go to presentation based on experience of Nepal, in the last 2 years of COVID pandemics, how smallholder family farming, non-commercial farming were more resilient as compared to commercial farming. Well, Nepal, as you know, is a very mountainous country with 3/4 of the area is covered by hills and mountains. And it's very rich in agrobiodiversity because of the high diversity of ecology and socioeconomic settings. And also predominantly the country has integrated mixed farming systems, which depends on, mainly on local natural resource based using recycling and regenerative farming system. Basically, it's a de facto organic conditions. Well, as I already mentioned, Nepal has a predominance of smallholder farming system because the average farm size is around 0.68 hectares, less than 0.7 hectares. And we have almost 3/4 of the farmers have less than 1 hectare of land. So this is one indication of smallholder family farming. And also almost, less than 20% of the farmers are commercial farmers who produces for market. That is also the indications for non-commercial dominance of non-commercial farming system. And basically smallholder non-commercial farmers mainly are prevalent in the very remote mountainous and hill areas, and also some parts of rain-fed, risk-prone areas of the lowland Terai. And they are basically integrated crop, livestock, forestry mix integrated systems, which are more regenerative, de facto organic, with no or limited dependence on external chemical-based inputs. And also our information statistics show that more than 20% or less than 20%, or what we can say less than 80% of the farm household, more than 80% of the farm household depend on informal seed systems. That means farmers using their own saved seed through community exchange and local markets to meet the local seed requirement and also production systems. And also there is a very limited farmers access to formal system of credits, institutional credit and exchange service and support measure. With respect to how Nepalese small farmers responded to COVID-19 impact, well, in many parts of South Asia as well, in Nepal also adopted strict preventive measures of the complete nationwide lockdown and closure of national borders and business in the first year in 2020, beginning early 2020, from the end of March to July, which triggered movement of a large number of people from urban areas to rural areas, what we call the reverse migration. And that helped to go for agricultural production. The migrant youth who returned their villages were attracted to agriculture because of the this COVID lockdown, and also we had very much favorable monsoon season in 2020 that also helped to cultivate and grow crops, and that was a relatively good season for farming. And estimates show that almost 500,000 people moved from urban areas to rural areas within a 1 month of period. Many of them walk on foot, covering almost 500 kilometers. So the farming, there was also, that helped also good availability of labor when youth returning migrants reach to their villages, helps to support in farming to the family members. Well, the COVID-19 has an impact basically on commercial and semi-commercial farming, particularly in urban and peri-urban areas due to lack of resilient supply networks, and particularly on commercial dairy, poultry, vegetables, and also floriculture, which were affected very much from COVID-19, but smallholder family farming particularly in the rural hills and mountains, were less affected from this pandemic due to their low dependence on external inputs, higher labor, and limited production for market. And also the incidence of infection from COVID-19 was very much limited in the rural, remote, mountainous part because of the limited density of the population, scattered, isolated settlements, and also basically family farming systems. Well, if you see this is the diagram showing the last 6 years after Nepal had a major earthquake in 2015. During 2015, Nepal, we lose a lot of agriculture production as well as overall economic production. So the growth rate was almost negative overall, but it grew. There was a very good economic growth, both in agriculture and non-agriculture sector until 2019. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, so non-agriculture sector was affected very much with a negative growth rate of almost 4%, while agriculture remained relatively good, positive growth rate with more than 2% growth. So this also indicates that the agriculture did not hamper much during COVID pandemics because of the predominance of a smaller non-commercial family farming system. So why smallholder farmers were resilient to pandemic? The basic reason I already highlighted is they depended more on indigenous seeds, livestock, manure for composting, fertilizers, family labor, and community sharing of labor and inputs. And also they happen to be custodian of natural resources and agrobiodiversity, utilizing all this diversity of crops, livestock, particularly in the traditional nutrient-sensitive crops and livestock that help to feed their families. And also the strong presence of community and collective institutions, to cope with this during the crisis, and also decentralized form of governance, particularly in Nepal after federal systems recently. So the presence of local government was very strong, and they had authority and power to decide, plan agriculture and other sectors in the rural areas, so they could provide incentives and support for agriculture. And most important part was the presence of, I already mentioned, community-based system, particularly community seed banks and community-based seed production groups and cooperative, large number of cooperatives, which helped to provide inputs locally and also help to support the delivery of the outputs. And particularly our experience shows that during even mega earthquake, this community-based seed system, particularly community seed bank, were very much helpful to provide emergency seed relief during earthquake in the neighboring districts and communities. And this is the example, I think, also during pandemics, they supported very much for local communities in agriculture production. And if you see here, I'm showing in two sides. In the left side, this non-commercial area, this basically focusing on our Bioversity International research on social seed network in two areas, in commercial areas, in the right-hand side, and non-commercial areas where seed net, you can see that seed network is very strong and resilient in the non-commercial area, particularly in the middle mountain farming systems, in Beknas and Kaski area, whereas in the commercial area, seed network is very loose, that's why they are more vulnerable to external shocks and climate change. And this is also to support, I think that social seed network helped during pandemics for supporting this agriculture. Well, global evidence also, when I try to look after all the peer-reviewed international journals and publication, and all show that most of the articles shows that smallholder farmers are more resilient in Central America, Mexico, and Europe, such as in Spain and in Pacific countries, in Nepal and India. So many recent literature in international journal also shows and provide this evidence. So in conclusion, I would like to say that small non-commercial farms are found resilient to pandemics and disaster. And that was mainly in the short term, as they are very much low productive, though they are resilient, but also they are low productive and low value, have a low value addition. So they could not support for longer term, because after when very much strict lockdown was relaxed, when relaxation occurred in the after COVID incidents were containing. So then many of the returning migrants again return to urban areas and overseas, and again, rural areas becoming again, lack of youth forces. So we need to, therefore, we need a very long-term, sustainable, inclusive food system transformations based on these lessons. So for that, I like to suggest that in order to have a long-term resilience of smallholder non-commercial systems for long-term sustainable and inclusive food system transformation, we need to build the capacity of smallholder farmers and communities through every provision of skills, knowledge, and technologies for regenerative agriculture and local value chain development. And also the promote community-based systems, strengthen community-based system, not only seed system, but also other input and output marketing for location-specific agro-ecosystem-based regenerative farming systems and revitalization of indigenous food system. I think in Nepal's National UN Food System Dialogue also identified one of the action area was to promote, revitalization of indigenous local food systems. And also we need also small-scale women and youth-friendly mechanizations to reduce the cost, reduce drudgery, improve efficiency and attraction of the youth in farming in the rural remote mountain areas. And also incentives and cash support for utilization of fallow land. In Nepal, almost 1/3 of land is remaining fallow because of the migration, youth migrations. And so feminization of agriculture is there. So for that, we need a support, incentives for long-term sustainable transformation of food system. Of course, the digital agriculture is very important for timely agro-advisory services, input market and prices. I'd like to finally suggest that there are 4 key components of strategy to build resilience for pandemics. One is focus on social protections and safety net policies. The second is economic, particularly market access and economic policy, such as income and cash support. And third is technology and innovation policy and program to support, build the resilience of smallholder farmers. And the fourth, the final is environmental protection policies and program that supports local ecosystem restorations and conservation and building capacity of the communities in the disaster and climate change adaptations. Thank you very much for your listening and attention. Thank you very much.